You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda, where each episode we talk about a different propaganda song. This episode, we're talking about Last Will and Testament, track 12, and the closer of 2009's Supporting Caste.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad we're talking about this song. This is a really unique track in the propaganda catalog to me, in that it contains like that super long instrumental track opening. And like, to me, this song stands out almost as entirely unique within the propaganda catalog. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a song that is like, it's about like the end of life and how we approach it, you know? And I was thinking about this song a lot today, and it reminded me of a quote from one of my favorite books in world literature. It's the Indian epic, the Mahabharata. And there's this quote, and I had to go and find it, and I dug it out. And it says, it's by a sage named Yudhishthira. And somebody asked Yudhishthira, of all things in life, what is the most amazing? And Yudhishthira answers that a person seeing others die all around them never thinks that they will die.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, man. So like, to me, this, like, I was not super excited to talk about this song. It's I've always had a weird place in my heart for this song. I've never really known what to think, and maybe I was like avoiding it, you know. But when I started really digging into this song and its contents, I was just delighted to focus this thing that I, avoid thinking about. So instead of being like all depressed about this episode, I want to use this as a chance to think about this chat on death, not as like a scary topic, but as like, there's another Indian yoga guru named Guru Mari Chidvilasananda, who said that to think of death as a guide rather than a shadow. So like, I'm going to think about this song sort of like as a guide tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And although that is all super heavy and there's a lot to process there, I'm also kind of relieved to talk about a song that's not as dense with references, since the last few really required a ton of focus and research. And even with that, I know you and I both felt uncertain in the in the attention and the time that we gave to, each of those references. So to be able to kind of wax a little bit more through interpretation feels like a relief.
Yeah. There's no Gustafson Lake standoff to research in this episode. Sure. It's like, it's the most human thing ever about life, which is death. I think that the most human thing that every single person walking this earth has in common is the fact that no matter how rich or poor you are, you will die. So this is like a song that's almost like a marvelously unifying topic in a way, if you choose to, frame how you look at it in a certain lens. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I'm really excited about this episode as well because, the last few with Rock for Sustainable Capitalism, Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes, it's been really dense. So I'm glad to talk about this extremely human topic about death. And it's a thing that we all want to avoid thinking about, but I'm choosing tonight to look at it as a guide,
Instant way. So who's our guest on this episode?
So I'm really excited about this week's guest. Our guest this week is Jenn Fiorentino, who is a well-known musician in Ontario, Canada, who is really well-known online for her immense catalog of originals and also acoustic renditions of songs by bands like Propaganda, Strung Out, Rise Against, a ton more. And what's been so awesome since the beginning of doing this show, for the last several months, people have been commenting endlessly and sending us emails and Instagram messages. Hey, you should totally get Jenn Fiorentino on the show. And I always respond to Instagram DMs and I'm like, yeah, we're working on it. So, it's really awesome to see arguably our most requested possible guest actually being on the show. And I told Jen, I was like, Jen, you have no idea how excited people, like how many people have requested you for the show. It's been really overwhelming. So I think that she was very honored and humbled and thrilled that people actually wanted to hear her on the show talk about, some of her acoustic renditions. Because if you go and look at her channel, man, some of her videos have 70, 80, 100,000 views. I mean, she is like just really like in the hearts of music fans and punk rock, across the continent. So it's pretty awesome. So I reached out to her and I asked her which song she would be interested in chatting about that she has covered. I was like, look at the covers you've done. She's done like 12, like she's done a full length of covers of just Propaganda. And she picked Last Will and Testament. And I was so thrilled because it's like it's completely not the one that I would have expected her to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So she chose Last Will and Testament, and we talked about why she loves this song so much. We talked about her work, and it was just an awesome thrill to talk to Jen. I've been watching her videos for years, so to chat with her for this podcast is a real thrill. So without further delay, please enjoy my chat with Jenn Fiorentino on Last Will and Testament. Jenn Fiorentino, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
How's it going?
It's going great. I'm so delighted you're here, and I know that so many guests all over the world are going to be excited to hear our chat today because, as I mentioned to you earlier, you are one of our most requested guests ever. So this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wouldn't have thought that.
So cool. So
wouldn't have thunk.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jenn, for anybody who hasn't heard of you or seen your work, maybe tell the audience a little bit about who you are in case they don't know you already.
Yeah, so I'm a singer-songwriter from the Toronto area. I cover a lot of propaganda songs on YouTube, as well as tons of other punk bands. And I started doing that, I'd say like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I know, it's scary.
That went by fast. Yeah, so I mean, I've been performing guitar since I was probably 13. Started singing my own songs in front of people around the age of 17, and then I started. I grew up. I don't know when. It's funny when all the social media stuff started coming out. I was very anti-social media. It took me a while to really warm up to it, and I'm still not huge on it. YouTube is really cool though. And so I started doing that, and I think the first cover I posted was Behind Closed Doors by Rise Against, and I got really great feedback. So I kept doing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was looking through some of your catalog yesterday, and a lot of your videos have like tens of thousands of views. I mean, you are a super popular person on YouTube for actually covering a lot of stuff, but also your own work. I know you had a record called Survive, which came out last year.
Yep.
How is your creativity going right now in 2020 amidst the global upheaval we're all currently experiencing?
To be honest, this might sound like kind of a bummer, but I haven't felt super creative over the past few years. We were working on the album for, let me think here, probably 2 years before I got to the point where I could start working on releasing it. It was a little bit of an arduous process, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. But I don't know. I hired a band, started practicing with them, playing some shows, and we got ready for the release. And I was touring out in Quebec a lot and working full time. And I think after the release show, I was kind of just like, I think I could use a bit of a break from this. I think it kind of got to the point where I was, I've been working full time for a while, which just sucks in general for the world, I think.
Yeah.
working full time was just bullshit. But you know, I've had to do it, and part of the reason I started to really have to do it was actually to pay for music and to pay for my band.
Yeah.
And it's not even like they were charging me that much. They had very reasonable rates.
Sure.
But, you know, paying them for gigs and rehearsals, paying for rehearsal spaces, not having any funding from, you know, any government institutions or from any labels, it started to get really expensive. And I kind of started to like dip into my savings for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found, you know, we were meeting up for these rehearsals and kind of working on the same songs over and over. And I just kind of got to a point where my creativity was just stunted.
Yeah.
And after that, I also have like an ear issue, which was becoming a lot worse with playing in a band and stuff. Like I have like fluid trapped in my ears.
Yikes.
Yeah. So with really, really loud music, just like it kills, and I get a lot of really horrible migraines. And singing often makes it worse as well. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I haven't like told people. I was just like, I wonder if I should like announce something on my social media just to like explain to people why I haven't been very active. But I just thought, you know what? No, they like people can wait. People, you know, they're like, I have fans and stuff, but I feel like people don't notice the time that passes quite as much as I do.
Sure.
So I've been waiting to see a specialist. I was supposed to see her back in April.
Obviously, that went by the wayside.
Exactly. Yeah, the pandemic hit. It's been a 7-month wait now, so I'm seeing her thankfully in a couple weeks. And we had like a phone conversation back in April instead of having the like in-person appointment. And she was saying I probably like I need to go in for a hearing test, but I also probably need to get tubes put in my ears, like they do like with babies.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, I'm just waiting for that. I'm really hoping that helps, and that I can kind of get back on track with things. But yeah, so far like this summer, I've you know, there obviously hasn't been much going on here in Canada, as in the U.S.
Right.
But I've been actually shifting my focus to horticulture. I'm going back to school for it soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, so gonna learn how to grow some food and feed people.
That is a marvelous and you know noble career path. So I mean, I think that's fantastic. And
Thanks.
you know, I mean, maybe this break will be a nice little recharge where you can kind of refocus your personal priorities within your own music, and then decide how you want to pursue things that maybe aren't so like stress filled of like, you know, trying to break into the big time, etc. Things like that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. That's like my thought process exactly.
Well,
you know, like
awesome.
I'm still playing music. I work at Long and McQuaid, so I've had the privilege of getting some pretty cool music gear.
Yeah.
So I still play. It's just I haven't been super active.
Gotcha. Yeah. Back when I lived in Saskatchewan, I actually bought an Art and Lutherie acoustic guitar at Long and McQuaid. So like that, I've been to that store before, and not a lot of Americans will know that chain. So that's cool that you name dropped that little Canadian company there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're a really good company.
Awesome. Well, Jenn, you're also a very well-known Propaganda fan, as we mentioned earlier, due to all of your excellent acoustic renditions. But take me back really quick. How did you first find out about Propaganda just as a fan?
I'd say probably around the age of 13. A couple of my friends started listening to punk music, and my friend Katie got one of their albums. What was it? I think it was Where Quantity is Job Number One.
Oh, cool. The compilation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and I think it has some live stuff on there.
Yeah, definitely. Chicken Fight.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember hearing that album and just like really loving the songs, but also just being so taken aback by the aggression in their politics and the satire. Like like I think there was one live recording where they were like joking about like fucking each other and stuff. And I was just like, I was like 13. I'm like, are they gay? Like,
exactly,
are they just, like, I didn't know how to interpret it.
Yeah.
And yeah, ever since then, like, obviously it's satire, but yeah, ever since then, I've just been like so hooked on just their convictions. They have a lot of conviction in the way they in the way they portray their views through their music and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, they were also a really challenging band for me as like a young, curious kid growing up, because I would see like pictures of like Todd and like the American flag thong and things like that. And it was it was always just so unbelievable to me, seeing the way that these guys were sort of like pushing norms and boundaries within their band. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And when you're like a young teen, you never see that.
Absolutely.
Like everything like most music you hear kind of works within the popular framework, and there's a lot of censorship. And with Propaganda, there was none of that.
Yeah.
And I sort of fell out of the Propaganda. Like I heard their music, I listened to them a bit, but I didn't really start getting into them until I think I was 19, and my boyfriend at the time put on Supporting Caste.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or no, maybe I think I was a little bit older, like 20 or 21. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But and he put that on, and I was like, what the hell is this?
Yep.
Like,
yep.
It was like the progression in their music is just incredible. And so like Supporting Caste was really the album that got me into them. And then I sort of went back a bit and checked out Potemkin City Limits and Today's Empires, and yeah, like and then I was like just hooked and wanted to play all their songs and almost make them my own.
That's amazing. So would you say that Supporting Caste is sort of like your standout LP for the band?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, yeah, you're on the same page as me then, because that's my number one. I don't think it'll ever be beaten, but it's just where I am with the band and their sound. So I went through your YouTube channel and I counted 12 Propaganda covers. So you've essentially created like a full-length LP covering just this one band. And I'm curious about if you can tell me about how Propaganda tunes push you as a player, as a musician, as a creative person that kept you coming back to their music throughout all your years of playing. Like, why did you do so many Propaganda songs?
Well, I love them, first of all, but I think there's sort of this like sound that I gravitate towards. You kind of hear it in obviously Propaganda, but like Rise Against and Strung Out. It has a lot to do with the chord progressions and those suspended chord structures that they use, but still having like, it's a really heavy, dark sound, but it still has those catchy melodies.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a band, I don't know if you've ever heard of Periphery.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I think you actually posted an LP of theirs on Instagram recently.
Yeah, I've become pretty much obsessed with them over the past like almost year. They have that sound too. The vocals are a little different, but yeah, it's just that really dark, beautiful but catchy sound. And the playing is really challenging. So like Last Will and Testament, when I was learning that, it's kind of one of those songs that I learned and I worked super hard on. And then I recorded it, and then I forgot it right after. So, go ahead.
Yeah, do you have thinking about the playing and the performing as well, about how fantastic these songs are? Do you have any like experiences of seeing the band live or communicating with the band in any way that's memorable and meaningful to you?
Absolutely, yeah. They I think it was back in 2012. Todd sent me an email asking if I wanted to play a few songs at one of their shows.
Wow.
Yeah, I was floored. And yeah, it was at the Phoenix in Toronto. I'm pretty sure it was 2012. And of course I said yes. So that's definitely the most memorable moment for me when it comes to, thinking of Propagandhi. Like it was just like the nicest, most humble thing that a band has done for me, especially one of my favorite bands. And they even paid me.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I would have never like asked for money for that, but like Todd was like, yeah, we'll give you whatever, like for the set. It was just a short set too, but like I honestly barely remember being up there because I was like really nervous.
Yeah.
But it was a really memorable night.
Awesome.
And getting to hang out with them and stuff was they're super humble people.
Absolutely. It's one of those things like where I've met these guys a couple times now, and like several of them, so Sue Lynn's been on the podcast. Chris has been on the podcast. I'm talking to Todd about being on the podcast. I talked to the Beeve recently as well. And they're so kind and enthusiastic about this project. And, if you think about like a podcast project diving into every song of a certain band, like not every band would be into fans doing that about their band because, you never know where the show is going to go. You have no control over it. So it's one of those things like, I can't believe how enthusiastic they are about this project as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's when you like a lot of times people will message me about like doing a collaboration or something, and I'm very picky about it because I have like my time is pretty limited.
Yeah.
With like most people.
Yeah.
But when you sent me that, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool, and like you actually had something for me to check out online, and I listened to it and I was like, oh yeah, this is legit.
Hey,
this
awesome.
It's a very thought-provoking podcast. And I mean, just like Propagandhi songs are very thought-provoking. So, a podcast based around their songs and lyrical content it's going to be a good podcast.
It's a wild rabbit hole that every song sends you down. So let's talk about a song.
Yeah.
When I emailed you, I asked you to pick a song to discuss in some depth, and you listed several, but one that you listed that jumped out at me right away is Last Will and Testament, the closing track of Supporting Caste. Why did you choose this one? What's special about this tune to you? You sort of alluded to it earlier, but let's go into a little more detail.
Yeah, sure. Well, I wanted to pick one that I've covered, of course, because I sort of have a little more of a deeper connection with it. I don't know. It's the lyrics in this song. I mean, the lyrics in all their songs are timeless, but there's something about the lyrics in this one that really, it speaks a lot about what's going on right now. I live in Canada, so I don't see as much of it, but I know you being in the States, I don't know what it's like in Buffalo, but there's protests going on everywhere. At least that's what you see on television. Not that I really watch television, but it's hard to get away from the way the media is portraying things in the US right now. And it's just interesting thinking about all these oppressed people on the streets protesting. And it's hard to say this, I see people using violence, and it kind of bothers me because I know the media sort of appropriates that, and that's what they report on the news networks. And you don't see the people who are peacefully protesting, wearing their masks, who actually know what the movement's about. Like, I think sometimes you need to resort to violence, and I think tearing down Confederate statues, there's definitely a point there.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I feel like the protests are sort of becoming convoluted. A lot of that I think has to do with social media as well. And like, it's sort of like a culture of apathy that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Where people would almost, everyone knows that we really need to change things now because the clock is ticking down and we don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people would rather, just sort of recognize it, but go about their convenient lifestyles and just sort of watch it as a spectacle.
Yeah, I hear you completely. So
Yeah.
you mentioned the culture of apathy. You mentioned going about things as usual. You also mentioned these protests that are going on where people are just demanding things like basic equality for all people in a country that allegedly stands for those things, but which has failed to live up to those values in so many ways. And so this song to me, Last Will and Testament, is about dying. It's about apathy. It's about the oh well mindset that permeates the minds of people who don't try at all to change the world for the better because their life is already really good. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite lines from the lyrics of this song? Because it's not a lyrically dense song. It's so short. It says so much in like 7 lines, basically, if you print it out on like a Word document.
Yeah. It's funny when I was thinking about what my favorite lines are, and I'm just like, all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess one of them is much was decided before any one of us were born, which, is obviously the truth.
Yeah.
But it's a cop out. You can't just say that and say, oh, we're screwed. We're helpless. Obviously as generations pass, we sort of get stuck in the world that those previous generations made for us, but we still have that knowledge and power to alter that course.
Yeah.
Over time. Like, you're not going to see change right away. But we have that power, and I think people are forgetting that. And I think people really need to realize the root of the issue. Obviously, like the Black Lives Matter protest, that's a symptom of a society based on ownership.
Yep.
And private property. It's rooted in slavery, and slavery is based in ownership. And, our financial system is part of that, and we really need to start tackling those issues. But, and unfortunately, it's like, how do you really get there? Like, I've read a lot of books and listened to a lot of podcasts with these super reputable political economists who even they say, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's tough because, they do like these protests and everything. They are a symptom.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's like, what's so crazy is like, I live here in Western New York. Buffalo was a hub on the Underground Railroad, fleeing people to freedom across the Niagara River over in Ontario. And like, whenever I'm riding my bike out in the countryside here in Buffalo, I see Confederate flags on cars in New York State. And I'm like, this is such a cognitive disconnect between the reality of where you currently are. And now it becomes so clear where a person stands on an issue when they put themselves out there like that, with that blazing, like that brazen and blazing symbol across the back of their F-250.
Yeah, exactly. It's a disconnect. We're like, people are so alienated from where they actually are.
Yeah.
And yeah, my friend who I had over yesterday, she was saying she has a girlfriend in New York who she just started seeing, and she was saying when she went to visit, she was saying the same thing. There's Confederate flags everywhere.
It's insane. Yeah. And like another really simple example of like, we're powerless to change anything anyways. Another line from the song is like, you think about like the differences in healthcare access for all people like in your country. And I live like 2 hours from you.
I know.
Like, and like I ride my bike along the Niagara River and I can literally see Fort Erie, Ontario on the bike path from Buffalo. And I'm like, just over there, a couple hundred yards away is an entirely different world for health access in this country. And we're all experiencing this massive global pandemic in the ways that like our death per capita, our death per 100,000, our death per 1 million, et cetera, is so different just across a river. And
I know.
I'm like, I always talk about healthcare access constantly. And like, I also know that it's very likely that in 30 years, I'll still be telling my fellow Americans about the benefits of universal healthcare for every single person. Like, I feel like it's so hopeless, but I have to keep saying it. Otherwise, I will just go crazy and I'll turn into that "we're powerless to change anything anyways" line that's in this song.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, as you get older, you start to realize that, like, how difficult it really is. And Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. It's like we're in stage 3 of reopening things. Like, we can go to restaurants now and stuff. Masks are mandatory, but I hear a lot of people like bitching about having to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Like just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, seriously.
Who raised you?
I know.
Like, you just have to put a piece of material over your face and you're keeping this pandemic from worsening. And I think about how much worse it is just on the other side of this imaginary line.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's utterly imaginary, and it's so different.
Yeah.
So whenever I think about Last Will and Testament, I think about the David Gillis Beeve era of propaganda, comprising the records Supporting Caste and Failed States. And a song like Last Will and Testament seems like it would be utterly out of place in any other era of propaganda besides the Beeve era.
Right.
Do these types of tunes on these two records, Supporting Caste and Failed States, stand out to you as being a distinct era of this band?
A little bit, yeah. I think there is, like, those two albums are probably my favorite propaganda albums. So that probably says something about sort of like a cohesive sound between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what it is though. Like, it's almost like, I don't know if it's a production thing or maybe if they started using some new effects pedals or something, but there's just this different sound to it. It's like a darker, more profound sound.
Yeah. Well, this song in particular too is like a rarity among the propaganda catalog in that it asks for the audience's patience with a 3+ minute intro. And the only other song that springs to mind that's even remotely comparable to that is Note to Self off Failed States, because that one has an intro that clocks in at 1:40. So this Last Will and Testament intro at 3+ minutes is even way longer than the other long intro. But, this one goes the distance. And I was really impressed with your rendition because you didn't alter the introduction. You really lingered on that throughout your entire acoustic rendition of it. And I'm curious if you can tell me how you feel about the build-up and progression throughout this tune, having learned it and performed it on guitar.
It's really beautiful. It's definitely, there was definitely nothing there that I could leave out. The intro, it's weird. There's almost this this sort of musical tension that it progresses into this really beautiful melody. And I really like the idea of having sort of a drawn out song like that, because we live in such a fast paced world.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I think about, I think when I was recording my album Survive, I think I was talking to my producer, or no, you know what? I was actually reading a book called, did David Byrne write it? It was called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Industry.
Oh, cool.
I'm actually going to look it up right now.
That's totally fine.
I'm in front of my computer. Industry. It's written by, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman.
Oh, cool.
And to be honest, when I read that book, that was when I was kind of just like, I became very jaded with how complicated the industry is. And there's a part in it that talks about how if you want to get your song on the radio, you've got, I think, like 5 or 10 of a clip of a song to catch the person's attention, whoever puts songs on the radio.
Lord have mercy.
And that's like, yeah, what a sick industry.
Yeah, seriously.
You have 5 seconds, like that intro in the song is 3 minutes, and it's I would never cut any of that out, and that's just the intro.
Yeah.
Like how much do we lose in music by just like shortening and following this this particular formula all the time. It's just like, it's really sad.
Yeah, well, and it's really interesting because I watched the one I watched immediately after your last Will and Testament cover was I think it was Matika Marie Sakun Rasikan.
Yeah.
And, right off the bat, dickhead shit talk. And it's like immediately. And then you have this last Will and Testament video where I don't know how you felt about it when you had the camera pointing at you. But like, when you have a camera pointing at you and you're playing guitar for like 3+ minutes in this intro, yeah. It's hard to like be like, where do I look? Because I'm not singing. And like you're looking off to the side a lot and like you're looking up. And it's like one of those things. It's like you were like, were you feeling like the vulnerability of that moment of not having the singing to rely on while you're recording this thing that the tens of thousands of people are going to see?
Yeah, oh totally. Yeah, that was sort of the era of me still being very camera shy. And that's just me like sitting in my own room too, but I knew that a lot of people would be watching it. So like it wasn't until like a couple of years ago that I really started looking into the camera and looking at the audience, and it's I guess it's kind of a vulnerability thing. It's a bit of a nervousness thing because that intro is very difficult, like the chord structures they use and your hand positions, like it's not easy to play. Thankfully it wasn't a live video. I was able to do several takes of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of comments, I was just looking at it recently because we're doing this podcast. But that was a while ago that I did that video, but there were comments about, like, I was getting into an argument with people who were like telling me to smile more. It's so funny.
Oh my God, like, to be a woman on the internet.
Spears, like, yeah, just listen, shut up and listen. Like it's funny. It's just, hearing a song like that and watching me play it and then saying, "Oh, you need to smile more." It's like,
ridiculous. Seriously.
Like, you're missing the point. Yeah. This isn't a smiling matter.
Yeah. It's art. It's music.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine that Propaganda, learning these songs, it probably has exposed you as a guitar player to a lot of chords you may not have discovered on your own, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, because seriously, that they must make you a better player by forcing yourself to learn these things.
Yeah. Anytime I would learn one of their songs, I was a better guitar player after, and just a better musician in general, especially anything off Failed States. Like they started to use a lot of like time signature changes and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, again, I don't do that much in my songs, or I don't do that really at all in my songs. So having to learn how to do that stuff was a challenge. And I'm just like, I do a lot of songs on YouTube that are fairly easy, but I always prefer having a challenge.
Yeah, I'd imagine the Lotus Gate one stands out in your memory as well for having to learn that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like playing them on like I've tried to play them on electric guitar as well, and it's just like playing them up to the speed that they're playing them. It's not easy. It's like a thrash punk style that's very fast, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jenn, I know that listeners are going to be so grateful to have heard this chat with you. I'm super grateful for your participation in Unscripted Moments, a podcast by Propaganda. This has just been a real thrill because, I've been watching your videos for 10 years. So it's so, so cool of you to spend some time with me to talk about your experiences, talk about being a fan of this very special band, and to share these stories. I know that you're sort of, not super into social media at the moment because you already said that, but where can people find you if they want to check out your work? Do you have any particular places you would direct people towards?
Oh, yeah. I'm still like, all my stuff's still online. I just haven't been posting a whole lot, but I have a website, which I really just simplified it recently. Mm-hmm. It's not really populating in Google for some reason. I kind of have to look into that, but it's just JennFiorentino.com.
Awesome.
YouTube obviously is a really good place. Just search my name, Jenn Fiorentino, and you'll find me. I have an Instagram account that I post to once in a while. I think the last 2 pictures I posted were of my kitten.
Nice.
Because she's the best.
Yeah.
I'm definitely planning on working on some more stuff in the future. I just I have to get this ear issue sorted out and just sort of get back on track with my inspiration. I'm also on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, when you
Facebook.com.
Yeah, when you get back on track, hopefully the board will be open and I can check out a show.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
Absolutely. Well, Jenn, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a real pleasure for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you for everyone requesting me to be on the show.
So that was my chat with Jenn Fiorentino. That was awesome for me, a real thrill. Thank you again to Jenn for spending some time with me to chat about Last Will and Testament. Keith, how are you feeling over there?
I think we should talk about the music first, since so often we get really deep into the lyrics and our interpretations and references. You and I being maybe musicians as, a hobby, but not musicians as, musicians. The music sometimes takes a little bit of a backseat. And I think with this song and its structure, especially with this intro, I think it'd be cool to talk about the music first.
I think that's actually a really cool idea. I like switch it up a little bit now and then. So you've turned the tables on me. How dare you? All right. So what do you think about the music? Should we start with this this behemoth intro that leads in this song for over 3 minutes? You want to start there?
Yeah, I think well, one thing I thought of was one of our fellow Patreons to Chris's Catastrophic Break podcast, Benjamin Reichman. He asked back when Chris did a Duplicate Keys episode, he did a Q&A, and Benjamin asked, I was wondering about your final track philosophy. I feel like on all your albums, the final tracks, Purina Hall of Fame, Iteration, Last Will and Testament, underrated, Duplicate Keys, Acaro, and Zucosis, usually have something special, a sample from something, an instrumental section, etc. And I think I've only recently noticed this habit or artistic decision to kind of go big in the end for Propagandy. And I think I'm talking like maybe 2 months before I saw him ask that, I put those pieces together. I mean, Duplicate Keys, probably maybe 2 years after the album came out, Zucosis like right away. Purina maybe about 10 years ago or so, like Iteration honestly only within the last few years, and then Last Will and Testament I don't really think until now that I've really noticed it. And I really, that also stands out how he said it's a really underrated track. And so I think for the longest time I thought the intro was too long, especially with like the 45-second intro in Supporting Cast. It felt like there's just a lot of open space on this album. But Jenn Fiorentino commented on something that has described, I think, a few different aspects of my life over the past few years, and just slowing down, right? Trying not to do so much, but maybe take things in, depth rather than coverage, whether that's in my classroom, not getting a chapter a week in, or my own personal life. If I take some time to meditate, an evening walk with my wife, I don't think I was ready to slow down in my mid-20s when I first heard this song.
Yeah. I mirror that. Absolutely. So this album came out in 2009 when I was living in the UK. And this album bashed me over the head so hard that I almost felt at the time like this conclusion song, this final track on the record, almost kind of like went out with a whimper. And I don't mean that to rip on it at all. It's just that I was like 25, 26 when this album came out, living abroad, living a very exciting, fast-paced life. This song comes out, it's about dying, and I was like, oh, death, whatever. And I think I blew it off in a way that I didn't blow off Iteration or Purina Hall of Fame. This one kind of just I just kind of blew it off because the rest of the album was so good that I felt like this was actually the weakest track on the whole record when it first came out. I think does that resonate with you too?
Yeah, I was living in Ukraine, as I've mentioned before, and this was my running album. Not to say like reducing an album to just exercise, but sure. I didn't get new music, but this was one new album I was able to download, and I was definitely not able to run to the end of it. So probably a lot of times I end up kind of skipping it because, I made it to like maybe track 9 or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
But in what Jenn said about her cover, mentioning how at first I thought it was maybe too long. I was thinking before I heard her interview, well, what would I cut out? Like, what would I leave out if I think this is too long? And she said that, like, nothing could, like, that she would not have been able to choose certain things to leave in and other things to take out. And I think that speaks to the intro's composition and how powerful it all works as one piece.
Yeah, and and that makes sense to me as well. So this song to me is an utterly original approach to a song at this point in Propaganda's career. If you think about everything before this song, including on this supporting cast record, there was never a song, at least to my knowledge, I can't think of a single one. So maybe I'm just a total moron here, but I can't think of another song that basically has a 3+ minute long intro in a Propaganda song. And so this to me, there's like, it reminds me of on Chris's podcast, Catastrophic Break with Consensus Reality, which everybody should download if they haven't, where he was talking to the band after they made Supporting Cast, and they had like this epiphany where they were like, wow, we can do anything we want now. And I think in the Patreon podcast, Chris said he was saying that to Beav when Beav was in the band after this Supporting Cast, their first time, like, wow, we can really do anything we want now. And to me, this is like the specialness of that era, because you basically have two songs in one, this instrumental and then the part with the singing. So the first song is like 3 minutes and 10 seconds long, and the second song is like another 3 minutes and 10 seconds long. So it's like two songs crammed into one. And it's like, so I look at what Beav is doing now with his instrumental band Agassi. And this is like a mashup of Agassi instrumental meets brooding Propaganda. And this content of Propaganda is so consistent throughout Supporting Cast. Like, this song lyrically makes a lot of sense in context to me, but we'll get to that. So to me, if anyone has any like misgivings or misunderstandings about this song, I highly recommend that you go and check out Beav's band that he's in now, Agassi, which is Agassiz. If you've never heard them, it features the Beav, the bassist is Ryan Nash, and then the drummer is Derek Hogue from G7 Welcoming Committee. And a great place to start to see, like, putting Last Will and Testament in context for me is like they have a 7-minute song called Aurora on their 2019 two-song release called Pulse 1B. And so like, if you go listen to Beav's other stuff when he's in an instrumental band, then I think that Last Will and Testament makes so much sense, because this is like Beav era experimentation, like across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really love how this song starts with like that dissonant feedback, and it grows and it builds into the first riff. And then this intro just blossoms. Like, that word just kept coming into my mind listening to this again and again. And while still sounding ominous and dark, right? It's not like necessarily uplifting or like, positive sounding. It definitely has like a negative tone to it. The bass cuts in and it kind of takes you up and down. The tempo of the tempo of the drums picks up and shifts. And I think right around 2 minutes and 33 seconds, it just opens up. And, it's like the different riffs, not the guitars themselves, but like the riff seems to be like talking back and forth.
Yeah. And what's so wild about this song too is you think about this super long intro song, and then you also have the super long outro where it sort of like reprises that intro guitar.
Right.
It kind of does that super quietly with a different overlaying like guitar sound throughout the end, all the way to like past 6 minutes where it gets really, really super quiet.
Yeah.
But then you think about the intro to a song like Note to Self, and these long intros, long outros, these are like so unique to this single era of the band. It's pretty special. But today I listened to Last Will and Testament, and then it had that long fade out outro, and then I immediately put on Note to Self, and it was like, bam, it was like two pieces that spoke to each other across a 5-year gap of time between releases of the records, and it was just so awesome. I was loving it.
Yeah, that's a great observation. I'm going to have to put them on back to back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when this song finally picks up around 3 minutes and 13 seconds, that main riff has this sort of like churning, ringing quality, especially like the last chord in the riff. It has like almost like an atonal feel that adds like an eerie bend, an eerie tone and tension that's been building all up into that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I was like thinking about this song on guitar because, you know, this Beeve era is just so unique as far as like the ears of the band for guitar playing, where the riffs are just, they're everywhere. It's so special, like the sound of this record. And I went down like a sort of rabbit hole conversation between a couple of guitar players on YouTube regarding the playing of this song. And some conversation that I read, like somebody was talking about the metric polyrhythms going on in the intro, and like how artful it was. And then like then they went back and they referred to the Sheet Happens tab book for Supporting Cast, which says that the whole thing is in 4, but that you know, a lot of it is clearly in 5s. Like, and then another guy said that the guitars are in 5/8, and you can totally hear it clearly at a minute 56, like when the riff comes in, dun, 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 and like, so then the drums might just be in 4/4 with the polymeters meeting up every few cycles, and they were like, whoa, this is super proggy. And I was like, what, pray tell, is a polyrhythm? So, you know, I had to go and look it up, and I found out that a polyrhythm is like the simultaneous use of 2 or more rhythms that are not readily perceived as deriving from each other. And I was like, whoa, man, there's so much wild stuff that you can learn about music that just doesn't make sense to a casual listener. But seeing people talk about this song in a really special way got me really, really interested. So I went and looked at a playthrough video of this song. I found this guy playing this song. His YouTube channel is Matt_bass. And man, the guitars underneath That Much Was Decided Before We Were Born are wild. It's like this staccato, single, almost offbeat downstrokes on the Beeve side that are just like messing with my head. And like, if you go and look up that playthrough on that YouTube channel, you can see the Beeve's parts played. And he also does a side-by-side where he plays the bass too. But there's just no rest on playing in this song, and Matt's video on YouTube demonstrates that really well. And I know that you were probably noticing some of those staccato downstrokes as well, right?
Yeah, and when listening to Jenn Fiorentino's cover, I was like, oh, I could learn this. I'm gonna learn this song. And then, you know, just listening to it, but then I watched her play it, and I was like, I'm not going to learn this. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that part with the much was decided before, like how it switches.
Yeah,
it almost makes it sound like there's like a delay effect, because it goes from like that constant strumming, like down and up, like super fast, and then it just that dun dun dun. Like,
that exactly.
That creates like such a unique effect that there isn't an effect. It's just so different from what they were playing before. And then like the throw up your hands in sadness, again, there's like this really almost discordant melody that again makes the song sound both dark and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, which is so appropriate for the lyrical content as well. Right. You know, I mean, it just fits so well, and it's just it's giving me chills just thinking about it. So do you have anything else to think about, like about the guitar performance in the song, since we're sort of on that topic?
Yeah, I think so just lay back upon your deathbed and gaze, to me, that piercing descending riff seems like it's the musical climax of the song to me. The emotion and the ideas are captured in that moment of urgency. I mean, that legitimately sounds like a warning from a guitar.
Yikes.
And then that ringing outro, I think, is a perfect bookend to the slow building overture in the beginning, which has such a, proggy feel, whether that is kind of connected to some of the guitar playing on Tertium, or the progginess of When All Your Fears Collide.
Oh yeah.
And it leaves me, that outro just leaves me pensive and hopeful, but also doubtful, like kind of all at the same time. It's like a mix of feelings.
Yeah. Well, I think that's okay. I think that feeling the happy, sad, scared, eager, excited, like that range of that bag of emotions, to me, that's just the product. That's just like the end product of good art. You know what I mean? That it makes me feel a wave of emotions across an emotional spectrum. Like, and that's something that this song does for me as well.
Yeah, and we've talked about, Jord being the MVP of a song. And
okay, let's get into the rhythm. Yeah, let's get into the rhythms here.
Well, I was going to say that. I think for me, I think the MVP of this song is honestly Chris's vocal performance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And,
okay. Tell me why.
His voice is just so powerful. It's confident. The melodies and the patterns that he creates are incredibly unique. And I don't just mean compared to other bands, but within their discography. And even if it's barely present, right? He it's like so dialed back to how much he normally sings, just a few lines.
Yeah.
I think his vocal performance is the keystone of the song.
That is so interesting. So this to me is one of the most minimalist propaganda vocal performances in the entire discography. And for me, this is a very solid vocal performance, but like I also at the same time, I hear what you're saying, but I also find myself missing like a big goosebumps inducing memorable vocal moment. Like if I'm thinking about the other album closers, like so say Zoochosis, when he says grab your little brother's hand, run like the wind, that like makes my arm hair like stand on edge. Or like there is no me, there is no you, there is all, in Duplicate Keys. What's another one? It just isn't fair, ain't no place for a millionaire, iteration. Like like I'm not complaining about this song at all, but like the other ones that I just mentioned, like I have these like vivid feelings of like not being like quite as blown away from a propaganda closer than I normally was for this particular one. But that said, the reason why I think that I wasn't as blown away is because he doesn't give me those massive, huge moments where he's like at the edge of his vocal range or something like that, or in like a super quiet moment where he's just singing like that grab your little brother's hand, run like the wind. That's in a super quiet part of that song, so I can totally hear and process what he's saying. But like this song is about death, and at this point in my life, when this album came out, I had not yet experienced several deaths that deeply impacted my life. Does that make sense? So like maybe when this album, like if this album was the closer now, when I'm going on 37 with deaths like in my life, I think I would have reacted to this one differently. But I totally see what you're saying about Chris's minimalist performance though, and how it's like it's unique as well, for sure.
The goosebumps inducing line for me is and not just line, but the performance is, we're powerless to change anything anyway. I mean, that like things kind of, it's almost like the clouds open up some when that line is delivered, and it's just so clear and vivid and powerful, and it just makes me think. So that's the one that is kind of the standout performance line for me. So we've left out a little bit the rhythm section. What's going on here with the drums, Greg?
Okay.
Tell us your thoughts as a drummer.
Okay, well, So I have to say that I didn't come at this thinking about the drums. I come at this rhythm section part thinking about Todd's very intricate and delicate bass on the intro, where he's super high up on the neck and you can hear him crystal clear in the recording, like through your headphones. And I liked what he was doing, but like, since I don't play bass, I'm often like, well, that just sounds good, but I don't really know why it's so gorgeous. Does that make sense? Like, I can't explain it to you music theoretically. So since I don't know these things, which is why we get musicians like Jenn Fiorentino and so many others on this show, you know, I needed to see what was going on for why I like the bass so much, besides the technical obvious prowess and the beauty in the recording. So I went to that playthrough video and I came to see that this song's intro, there is a conversation going on between the bass and the drums, which explains why I like it so much. There is a special thing that occurs in music when a bass player and a drummer are talking to each other through their instruments. It's the reason I like No Means No so much. It's the reason I like Shellac so much. It's the reason that I like, you know, to a lesser degree, Face to Face so much, or The Descendants for sure. But like, so Jord and Todd are like utterly dialed in, and Jord has a corresponding and complementary percussive tap for the first 1 minute and 56 seconds until the chugger riff comes in. So every time Todd hits a note, Jord has a complementary percussive tap of some kind, which I find to be so cool. And like, it reminds me of like, you know, my favorite rhythm section, No Means No, and like a mid-tempo song like The River from their album Why Do They Call Me Mr. Happy? Like, where the drums and bass are just so perfectly locked in and they work in a completely interlocking and complementary manner to where one is never without the other. So every time Todd hits a note, Jord is present with him. You know, it's like a total rhythm section awareness on this track's long intro that I think should be really appreciated with from listeners.
I'm gonna have to watch a video now to be able to experience that visually, to be able to tell, you know, from what I'm hearing.
It's really special, and like it's really easy to overlook moments like that. And I think that it takes a calm, quiet room. I think it takes a nice pair of headphones or a super nice hi-fi system, possibly with a vinyl LP, to really understand and to appreciate what's going on between those two in this song. But it's very special. And it took me watching a playthrough video to watch the bass playing on the fingers of a competent player doing what Todd is doing, because Todd doesn't have a playthrough video that I could find, but I found one and I was like, holy smokes, every time he's on something, Jord is all over the place, you know, doing very special, delicate and unique playing to where those instruments are just absolutely complementing each other. So I absolutely loved the rhythm section on this song and the intro. And I think that it's possibly overlooked because of the, you know, the super trippy guitar stuff that's going on between Chris and Beeve. But I think that Todd and Jord are just equally as dialed in as Chris and Beeve.
So we've taken a while to talk about the music first, just like this song does, you know, exposing the listener to this really tense build up. So let's go ahead and switch and talk about some lyrics here, Greg.
Oh, yes. Okay, fine. Would you like for me to start on what I think about, you know, my general takeaway from this song?
I have an idea so far, but lay it on.
Okay, fine. So, you know, I was thinking back when we did our When All Our Fears Collide discussion, and I found that it was like Todd's version of Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. And I got super literary on this one as well. And so to me, this is like the propaganda musical version of The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy. So I love that book. First of all, it's only like 70 pages or something ridiculous. So like you can read it in like 2 hours, and everybody should. But that book, is about a middle-aged bureaucrat who did stuff his whole life. He was a professional. He was super busy, like all of us are. And he falls ill in an untimely manner, and he realizes that he's dying, but he can't understand it, right? He realizes his life had no purpose, essentially, and that he essentially had life has essentially been a wasted exercise. And so as I was listening to this song today, I was like, holy smokes. Like, this reminds me about like the futility that Ivan Ilyich feels on his deathbed. And I went and I grabbed my copy of the book and I found this quote, and I was like, oh my God, this is so creepy. And he's like, so this is the quote in the book. It can't be that life is so senseless and horrible, but if it really has been so horrible and senseless, why must I die and die in agony? There is something wrong. So to me, this song is like getting at the unsatisfactory nature of death, because it means that our time is up and we failed to make a difference, and we're most likely going to be forgotten quickly in the annals of history. So like in Tolstoy's Death of Ivan Ilyich, a sick man lays dying on his bed for days as his family just goes on about their life, completely disregarding his dying process, because during his life, he disregarded them while he was like making his fortune, And so like very likely he's not making the world a better place. And then Ivan questions the meaning of life and realizes he had it wrong the entire time, much like almost all of us have it wrong as well.
Yeah, that opener here in the few remaining moments we have left, I hear what you're saying. Like I interpret this in two different ways. Like partly as the album is just about done. What else does the band have left to Vince to take this seriously? But also as like the remaining moments we have collectively. I see this almost on a bigger scale, not just on the individual lying on their deathbed, but as humanity is like barreling toward mutually assured destruction and environmental collapse.
Yeah, for sure. And you think about the power of this song. So we have these two interpretations, right? We have it on the individual level. So we have the micro, and then we have the world level, the macro. So we have two different ways of viewing death itself. And this song, I did the word count and everything. I was that dorky about it. It's 135 words. Like, it's literally a paragraph about coming to the end of life and realizing that we'd done nothing except maybe reproduce that made the world a quote unquote better place. And we're like, oh, well, and, on our deathbeds, oh, well, here we existed. And to be frank, I feel like I'm on that exact path, most likely. I've had thousands of students in the past 14 years as a teacher. So I feel like I'm doing okay. I'm doing what I can in a lot of ways. But like, then I see people that I taught and people who encouraged me to be a teacher rehashing like things like Pizzagate online right now. And I'm like, oh boy. So it's like disillusioning as well. Like, oh, I've committed my life to this life of the mind, and I've committed to helping other people realize the beauty of curiosity. And then it's like, oh, Pizzagate. And I'm like, oh, come on. So like this futility almost is like, it's getting to me. And, maybe that's off topic on the song, but like, that's what it makes me think about. And I'm not saying all that's like rip people, you know what I mean? From the time we're young, we're told that getting into a good college, getting a good job, paying the bills, having a family, putting the kids through college, saving for retirement, having cushy retirement is essentially the arc of life that we can expect. And then some of us actually get that through tremendous luck of circumstance, mostly privilege, a lot of BSing as well.
Right.
And then we still die unhappy,
Yeah, right. Ugh. Oh, you brought a completely different interpretation than I did. That's so,
fine.
I'm thankful, and now I'm kind of just re-examining the thoughts I had. Not to change it, of course, but just like really thinking about things that I hadn't really considered on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, geez, that line, that much was decided before any one of us were born. Like, I'd wager the majority of the people actually listening to this conversation would agree with that there's like this sort of like fate, this fate through power and governmental and societal structures that is determined, so much of our lives and livelihoods, but we don't want to give into the thinking that we can't fix it, because sheesh, what's the point of getting out of bed?
I know.
Then? And, I saw not long ago a photograph of a mural. I don't know where it was. And it said, "You are personally responsible for becoming more ethical than the society you grew up in."
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of keep coming back to that. And that mural kind of flashed while I was listening to this song. And I don't think the history of humanity or America naturally bends towards justice.
Mm-hmm.
I think progress has come from people demanding change. So for me, it's like the weight of realizing your position in this vast timeline of incremental change. It could feel like, what's the point? Because
right.
there's not going to be major change until, if there will be, long after. So it's more of like a generational idea of justice, like maybe, demanding for certain things that we'll never get.
Yeah, and I really needed to have this conversation with you tonight, especially on the songs. This is like just, I mean, I feel like this is like super like fate talking to me right now, because the last several days I've woken up during this pandemic. So it's like the end of August right now, to give some context here for when this is. And I wake up in the morning, and lately my first thought has been, oh, I'm awake. This again? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like inspiring me. And so I was listening to this record today, and I was like, and then I put another little thread together. I kind of realized this song kind of feels like a sibling to Without Love for me.
Mm-hmm.
So Without Love discusses death and loss and grieving. And then this song sort of challenges you to kick your butt into gear for your remaining time. You know what I mean? Because Without Love says, these people died. I'm sad. And then Last Will and Testament says, you're on your deathbed. What did you do? So like these within 4 songs on this record, it says, I'm experiencing death and I am sad. And then 4 songs later, it's like, I am on my deathbed. What the hell did I do? You know what I mean? So it's like a bookend for me. That is super inspiring, and earlier you mentioned the song Here in the Few Remaining Moments We Have Left. Man, I had a moment. Oh, hold on a second. So that line, man, several years ago, I think about the last time I saw my grandfather before he passed away. It was not a content situation or death. His eyes were darting. He was realizing that the time had come, essentially, but he had a very hard-headed ego. So he was realizing that the hardest-headed of egos extinguishes. And, I've tried to forget it because it was so haunting. But his death was not a death of contentedness, ready to let go. It was like a gnashing of teeth death, and it hurt to watch.
Yeah.
I can't get too much into it, but the ending of life of my grandparents was like full of pain, fights and frustration, like avoidance of emotions. I still haven't like fully tackled it, but like it gave me very dark thoughts about what the end is like. And this song scares me for that reason, because, like I said earlier, when this song came out, I hadn't experienced those moments yet. And I felt like the song was missing the oomph of some other record closers, but like my grandparents are still alive, and I hadn't had some seriously personal death experiences in my life, which have since come to pass. And this song has like really like changed in meaning for me. And then that Here in the Few Remaining Moments We Have Left, like a lot of people fantasize about that, where you're like on your deathbed and you're like, remembering things, and you're looking back and you're like reflecting with your family members by your side, holding your hand and telling them how much you love them. And my one experience of having that experience with somebody, and it was like a moment of like rage, like, how dare I end? And it just haunts me to this day, just thinking about it.
Yeah, that line, throw up your hands in sadness. I mean, that kind of fits in here. I mean, to me, that propaganda lyric is me in 2020. You know, I'm lucky to not be categorically ruined by economic, medical, and the social unrest sweeping the continent right now. So, like, but however, the weight of tragedy on the small and large scale has left me just feeling crushed. 183,000 Americans that I can't process, but I also can't process like the recent deaths of, the artists and the performers who helped me fill the void. And then into the line, we're powerless to change anything anyways.
Yeah.
I think the clarity and the timing of this line made me miss the purpose of it when I first heard it, or for the first few years. Because for a while, I heard it as a literal singing of those words, as an endorsement of that way of thinking, not a rebuke, which I hear it as now. And even if I don't believe we can really change things, like I can't think that.
Yeah. And there's another line that that stands out to me too. I'm just all over the place on this one. I'm so sorry. I feel like this is these songs that aren't specific about a specific topic are hard work,
Yeah, what they end up bringing up, because you don't have, say, something a personal connection with something dense in historical references, but something that is a little bit loose in its interpretation is going to read a little differently.
Yeah, I love the fact that we both come at it so differently. Well, and as people will know from listening to us on this show, I'm also like a religious studies and philosophy teacher, and so I was looking back at I was thinking back about how famous spiritual teachers talk about death, and I found this super controversial Tibetan Buddhist Lama named Kalu Rinpoche today, and I was thinking about something that he once said, where he's like, before we know what our life is finished, then it is time to die. If we lack the foundation of a stable practice, we go to death helplessly in fear and anguish. So it's like, throw your hands up. You know what I mean? It's like this fear and anguish of just being like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, here it is. And it's like, oh, well, dang it, it's over. Ugh, God. Did you have any other lyrics that you really resonated with about this song? I have one more, but, I feel like I'm just ranting today.
Oh, no. I think, the lines, so just lay back upon your deathbed and gaze idiotically back up the chain of command from which we receive our directives.
Man.
That line so much reminds me of something from Zoochosis, about the operant conditioners coming to break you in, and how much, again, our lives are shaped by people that we don't even see or necessarily interact with, but it's through their power and control of our lives that it ends up shaping us. And I think this line speaks to why I love this band so much, and what I think so many people get wrong about extreme music, like associating it wholesale with nihilism. But that's what propaganda, I think here they're clearly trying to combat. Like, they're trying to combat with their signature bite and cutting words, not to just give up or to do nothing or to just float, right? But to try to make things meaningful. And then my favorite line is the last part. I guess it's just common sense to preach what ought to be, but ensure it never is in the present tense. I mean, that's my favorite song in this line.
It's mine too.
Yeah. And I think it is the story and the reality of America writ large. Like toddlers with their fingers in their ears, either saying, I don't pay attention to the news, it's too depressing, right?
Yep.
Like having the luxury to be able to do that, or just paying attention but giving up. I feel like it's hard to care, right? And it's hard to do.
Yep.
But it's kind of, I read that as a challenge, right? Like, I'm being challenged here to not care and to not give up.
And I know I sound like a broken record on this issue, but I think about things that other countries do better than the United States when I hear a line like that. like, common sense would ought to be, but ensure it never is in the present tense. So there are things that other places in the world do now that we do not, and that we argue we should be able to do because it's quote unquote progressive in nature, but that we will never do because our objective as Americans seems to be just to hate each other instead of to make life better for literally every American. Right. So like, for example, paid and guaranteed maternity and paternity leave to raise new families, or healthcare access for all citizens that doesn't end in bankruptcy, or varying policies of weaponized police forces, and lack of use of lethal force against people, or focusing less on the might of one's ability to obliterate other nations from the face of the earth, and more on actual quality of life on the ground for all people. We also have varying approaches to education and treatment of teachers in this country compared to other nations. We have, we lack guaranteed wages, not based on tipping in the service and hospitality industry, which provide respect and dignity for all people. And, there's so much more. Like, I could go on, but like, when I see all these things, like in this country, I'm essentially just screaming into the void of stuff I don't really believe we're going to accomplish, because power still calls all the shots, and our national gaslighting is so profoundly effective that giving tax cuts to ultra rich can be successfully framed as a tax cut for the middle class. And people are just like, yay, take that, libs. And this might get dark, but it just causes me to like lose all hope and know that I'll be on my deathbed, and my daughter could be in her 50s still arguing for the value and benefits of universal health care in the United States. And that just makes me crazy. The fact that like I could be dying, we still don't have universal health care. My kid could be in her 50s being like, why don't we do what other countries do? And I'll be like, kid, I was in my 20s saying that. Yeah. Now I'm on my deathbed and I'm still saying that. What in the world? Like in my heart, like I know I'll never see universal health care in the United States. I just know it. Like I've yelled and screamed about it for like 17 years, and I have no reason to believe I won't be yelling and screaming about it for another 17 years. And then another 17 years after that, like it's just wild to me. I don't even know how many like letters to my representatives I've sent over the years, only to get back, Senator so-and-so, thanks you for your letter. Right. Your communication is very important to me, on their fancy schmancy Senate letterhead. And it makes me feel like I'm on like a merry-go-round of delusion, where I was told my whole life I live in a place where people care about each other, only to vote for everybody who passes legislation that's like anti-human. Ugh. So this song does not give me hope that I will have a contented and peaceful death.
I'm snapping along here. I'm snapping.
Thank you, buddy. And that, like, I hope I die, like, just completely unexpectedly. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be on my deathbed contemplating things because I'm afraid that it will be just an unsatisfactory contemplation. It's hard. So when I think about life for all people, especially in this country which has so much money and so many resources and so much power on the international stage, but yet how so many people get evicted and are homeless and have no access to doctors and, are just completely treated like disposable scum. It just, I think about like what the meaning of like life is, and this reminds me of another quote I read today from a Zen master from like the 13th century. So like, we're all here right now. If you're listening to me ranting and raving through your headphones right now, we're here right now. We are in these rented temporary vessels we call our bodies. And we've all been born, which means which is why you're listening to me, because you were born. And he said, so there's this 13th century Zen monk named Hoshin who once said, coming, all is clear, no doubt about it. Going, all is clear, without a doubt. What then is it all? And I love that, because to me, like, all, what is it all? It's now. And what are we going to do between now and the time where we go, when we die? And to me, this song is like saying to all of us, do you want to be like this character, this narrator on your deathbed who just threw up their hands and was like, oh, well, you know what I mean? So this song to me is a challenge. It is about death, but it's inherently positive because it's like, do something, please. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a quote from Richard Dawkins, whom I think is incredibly problematic. And he says just as many, or if not more, reprehensible things as he does anything that's enlightening. So I definitely do not want anyone to think that I am some, like a Richard Dawkins super fan. I just have a handful of quotes kind of like somewhere in the back of my head that occasionally pops up. But and this is just from Brain Pickings, that website that kind of collects ideas. And there's a quote from him where he says, we are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones. Most people are never going to die because they're never going to be born. The potential people who could have been here in my place, but who will never, in fact, see the light of day, for the grain. Certainly, those unborn ghosts include greater poets than Keats, scientists greater than Newton. We know this because the set of possible people allowed by our DNA so massively exceed the set of actual people. In the teeth of these stupefying odds, it is you and I in our ordinariness that are here. And I actually kind of see that as a reminder to kind of just feel lucky. And when Chris sings an unscripted moment, when he says, I'm thankful every happy moment I have here. And I think we should also, in a way, be grateful for some of the unhappy moments that we have.
Yeah. So true. Well, let's see. Did you find any cool YouTube comments about this song? Let's dial it back for a second, because I'm feeling very intense, and I'm curious if we can just have a moment where I just am able to calm down here as we move towards our conclusion tonight.
No, for sure. And I really feel like this has been a therapy session, and able to not just get things out, but talking to you and hearing your ideas has got me thinking about things differently, and just processing so much that we're all dealing with. But in terms of YouTube, I found a few that I think reflected my musical and lyrical interpretation. One just said a soothing crescendo, and another said they should get a Nobel Peace Prize just for writing this song.
Yeah, nice. I found a couple. One said, masterpiece. This song is so deep and they nail it live.
Nice.
So I read that and I was like, okay, I think I saw them see this. I think I saw them play this live at that Islington Academy show in London in 2009, when Frank Turner and I were in the same room together and we didn't even know it, cool. Which is so funny. But before I went and looked for some live performances of this song. And before I read the comment from YouTube, I have to acknowledge the biggest pet peeve that I have of going to see live music crashed in my face today in an era of our lives when I can't even go see bands. So I love live music more than almost anything. I miss it so much. But I was watching a performance of this song, and I came across a performance that had good sound quality, recorded at Webster Hall in New York City in 2009. And the sound quality was really clear, and these dinguses were talking through the entire introduction on the recording, and I could hear them talking in the video, and I wanted to scream at them. I was like, hey, dinguses, if your only objective is to talk about nothing, your dumb, pointless conversation all night long, can you do that at your stupid house? I guarantee you everyone standing around you hates your guts. Ugh. Okay. So that said, a comment said, certainly my favorite song of this album, as powerful as propaganda inspiration is. Love it. And I was like, man, I never once considered that this would be anybody's favorite song on this record. Did you ever think that somebody would say unequivocally, this is hands down my favorite song on Supporting Cast? Have you ever thought that ever?
Yeah, that is not one that I think people would pick to talk about on this podcast or play for someone else as an introduction.
Yeah. So to me, that was really cool to see that some people appreciate this, like almost like two movements, or I mean, you could even say that quiet outro is like even a third, but this is like a multi-part piece of music that builds and flows, and I was glad to see that people were saying this was their favorite song on the record. Keith, what kind of like concluding, like teachable moments or thoughts do you have regarding this song?
Yeah, I don't find hope or comfort in much these days. Everything feels pretty daunting and I don't know, pointless on, like you said before, a micro and a macro level. And I'm a pretty social person. I like being around people, even if I don't really like people.
Yeah.
But I've really closed off my physical and emotional gates lately, and that's a challenge for me. It's been kind of a struggle, but I've tried to kind of narrow my scope and focus my mental bandwidth on my inner circle, my wife, my grandma, and that's really it. Work in a way, but I don't mean this in a, well, I'm going to get mine and just focus on me.
Yeah.
I don't mean shutting off the world, but remembering the immediate world I inhabit, my school, my neighborhood, the various communities where I have influence through my work or volunteering. Otherwise, I feel like that old Bilbo quote from Lord of the Rings when he says he feels like butter spread across too much bread.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so to me, this song is indicative of the necessity to almost like reframe what I wish to see in the world. Like, I am guilty of constantly focusing on the ever worsening national tragedy unfolding before our very eyes.
Yeah.
And, that is draining and terrifying.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to have the bejesus scared out of them, go ahead and read On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, which makes some parallel connections between our lives today and some warning signs that happened throughout the 20th century across Europe during, authoritarian, tyrannical rises, essentially. So anyway, what I feel like I need to do in order to stay sane is like focus on improving the immediate like social ecosystem around me. Like I'm fortunate in that I live in a place, like I live in a walkable village with all of my needs met within walking distance, which is so cool. I think about people stuck in like, endless, suburban areas where like you could live 3 miles deep in a neighborhood and you literally can't go anywhere unless you have a personal vehicle. So I live in an area that's fairly globally minded as well because I live right on the border with Canada. So people here are a bit attuned to what happens across the borders of other places. But if I spend the next 40 to 50 years, and I'm thinking wishfully there, obsessing over each disappointment that occurs at the national level, I very likely will achieve next to nothing in front of my very eyes. So additionally, if I continue to focus on the national and obsess over it, I will not appreciate the things that I do accomplish because I will be mired in disappointment over the macro. So I want to do what Chris says in the song Unscripted Moment, which I'm glad that you thought of that because I was thinking that too. To be truly grateful for every happy moment here because those will be the moments that can give end of life pleasure and satisfaction. But it's clear that ignoring our own deaths while clinging to the self-important ego will get us nowhere because when the time of death comes, we will go out gnashing and clawing instead of experiencing what is one of the most utterly human sensations that literally all humans will experience. So like, if I live life knowing the end is bearing down on me, maybe I'll do a little better about not just throwing up my hands in resignation at it all.
It's interesting how similar our takeaways were from this track.
Yeah, it comes full circle, doesn't it? We interpret it differently in the moment based on our own life experiences that you and I have both lived. And then I went on a couple of rants and raves there. I feel a little better though, I got to tell you.
That's good.
Do you want to rate this song?
The more I listen, the more I wished I could see this band. I could see Propaganda play it live, to experience that cresting intro, to sing along with like the anthemic verses. I think it hits a little differently than the other epic closers, but at the risk of giving too many songs in a row a 5, I can't think of any critique. I listened to this song dozens of times this week. It never got old. It's a perfect song. I'm giving it a 5.
Whew. Okay. Oh boy. That's a lot of pressure, man. I was going to give it a 4. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5. A few of the other album closers still hit harder for me. That said, I am a musical dunce. And so I am fully willing to admit that I am completely wrong in my rating, but I am not going to give it a 5. So I think I'm going to fence sit and give it a 4.5. Well, that is our episode on Last Will and Testament. Thank you to all of our friends out there for listening to yet another long marathon episode of this show. Thank you specifically to Jenn Fiorentino for giving us some of your time to chat about your work. We are deeply grateful for your presence here, and I know that the listeners are as well. If you want to find us, you can find us on Twitter at PropagandyPod or on Instagram at PropagandyPod. You can also email us at propagandypod@gmail.com. Also, don't forget about our voicemail. If you look at our Instagram, our phone number is posted, and you can leave messages for us there as well. So we will be bombarding you for voicemails in the coming months. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda, is created, hosted, and produced by Keith Goff and Greg Soden. Musical clips on this show are composed and performed by Propaganda. Artwork on the show is by Justin Santora, who can be reached at justinsantora.com. You can find us on Twitter at PropagandyPod and on Instagram at PropagandyPod. If you like the show, please drop a rating on your podcast app of choice and subscribe to receive future episodes. Tell your friends. Thank you so much for listening.